There's one medical condition that most people assume only affects older adults, but a new report shows young people are becoming increasingly at risk. Take a look at this. When you think of hearing loss, you may think of your grandparents with hearing aids. But in a shocking new report by the World Health Organization, 1 in 4 people will have hearing loss by 2050. That's almost 2 billion people across the globe. In the U.S. alone, unsafe levels of noise are putting 50% of Americans between 12 to 35 years old at risk. And for older adults, hearing loss is associated with walking problems, falls, and even dementia. But the World Health Organization also has some good news. 60% of these cases are preventable. So what can you start doing today to protect yourself and your family? Well, I'm going to have to go back to some of my old ENT days. You know, I did ear, nose, and throat before I did plastic surgery. I did both of them, and hearing loss is a huge problem.
And, you know, this kind of hearing loss, acquired hearing loss, I think that the pandemic has accelerated it because a lot of people, we're a whole bunch of people in a small home, and so how are we all going to do school and work and all that? We brought the sound directly not only to our own eardrums, but to our kids' eardrums. And so I think maybe those statistics by 2050 took that into account, but if they didn't, I think it's going to be even worse.
And let's talk about just losing that sense, that all-important sense of hearing.
And it's really different than eyesight. I think people might think, oh, I'll notice, just like I notice if the words on the page get blurry or something on a screen gets blurry. But because it's so gradual and there's no thing you can compare it to, you don't notice. What happens is your family may also not notice. They might blame it on your memory. Oh, they just, you're just not remembering what I told you.
What they do with older people.
I told you. Yeah, I told you that. So I stopped telling you as many things because you're not listening or you don't even remember. And it isolates older adults when it's totally fixable.
And we know when younger children, if they can't hear, they immediately assume that they're slow, that they're not developing.
We screen it in newborns, but if it develops later in childhood, especially after language acquisition, because when kids have hearing loss before they start to really get fluent with language, we hear it in their speech, and they pick that up really quickly in school or in a doctor's appointment. But if kids lose their hearing in elementary school or middle school and high school, then we just think they're not listening or they're not paying attention.
The point we want to make today is for children and young adults, it's often preventable hearing loss caused by loud noises that we're really focusing in on today. And it's not just things like loud concerts and having those earbuds in and listening to loud music, but everyday things that are really noisy. Hairdryers, leaf blowers, blenders, traffic sounds, sirens, loud cars. All of those types of loud sounds can and will damage those all little sensitive hair cells that we have inside our inner ear that processes sound and sends it to the brain, and that's how we hear.
It's true. Have you noticed on your phone how if you turn up your volume too high, it gives you a little warning?
Yes.
So in some phones and devices, you can lock it. So on your kids, you could lock it so that they couldn't take their volume so high with their earbuds in.
And it just seems like it gets noisier and noisier outside every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like those leaf blowers.